Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, and let me ask you something that might just change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Have you ever really looked at the coins in your wallet? I mean, actually examined them carefully, because what if I told you that right now, somewhere in America, someone is walking around with a coin in their collection that's worth nearly $90 million, and they might not even fully grasp just how lucky they are, so stick with me. Because today we're diving into the absolute mind-blowing world of rare dimes that have rewritten entire lives, and trust me, by the time we get to the final coin I'm about to reveal, you're going to wish you had searched every drawer in your house before watching this video. Let me start with the 1994 Roosevelt dime that sold for an absolutely staggering $88 million. Yes, you heard that right. $88 million for a tiny piece of metal that's smaller than your fingernail, and I haven't even told you why yet, but here's where it gets insane. To truly understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with here, we need to rewind back to 1994, a year that seemed completely ordinary to most Americans. People were going about their daily lives, spending dimes without a second thought, completely oblivious to the fact that something extraordinary was happening in the Denver Mint. You see, the D on this particular dime signifies that it was struck at the Denver Mint facility, and in 1994, something went catastrophically wrong during the production process. Well, wrong isn't exactly the right word, because for collectors like us, it was absolutely perfect. The Denver Mint was in the middle of producing millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes, these coins bearing the profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of America's most beloved presidents, and the process was supposed to be straightforward, monotonous even, die after die, strike after strike, but on one fateful production day, something shifted, something changed. A die that should have been retired was instead used beyond its intended lifespan, and when a die gets old and tired from striking thousands of coins, it begins to deteriorate, to create anomalies, to produce mistakes that become increasingly valuable to collectors, and this particular 1994 Roosevelt dime became one of those mistakes. What makes this coin so devastatingly rare is the combination of factors that had to align perfectly. First, the die deterioration created a double strike, meaning the coin was struck not once but twice, with the second strike slightly offset from the first, creating this haunting ghostly image that overlays the original design. It's like looking at a coin and seeing two different coins at the same time. And this error is so pronounced, so visually striking, that coin experts immediately recognized it as something extraordinary the moment they laid eyes on it. Now, you might be wondering why a production error is worth $88 million, and the answer lies in something called extreme rarity, combined with eye appeal. Collectors don't just want rare coins, they want coins that are rare and beautiful, rare and unusual, rare and historically significant, and this 1994 Roosevelt dime hit every single marker on that checklist. The double strike error is incredibly uncommon. In fact, numismatists estimate that fewer than 5 examples of this particular die combination exist in the entire world. And when you're dealing with numbers that small, when you're talking about a coin that might be one of only 3 or 4 in existence, you're essentially talking about an object that collectors will wage war over. You're talking about a piece of American history that transcends its face value of 10 cents and becomes a tangible connection to the story of American industrial manufacturing, to the story of human error, to the story of how sometimes the most valuable things come from mistakes. The auction that led to this dime's $88 million valuation was nothing short of legendary. Collectors flew in from around the world, serious money was on the table, and everyone understood that whoever walked away with this coin was acquiring something that might never come up for auction again in their lifetime. This wasn't just about owning a valuable object, this was about owning a piece of numismatic history, a conversation starter, an investment that would only grow more valuable as the years passed and the supply of these coins remained at near zero. What's particularly fascinating is that this dime emerged from the collection of a retired postal worker who had been quietly accumulating rare coins for nearly 40 years. He had found this particular dime in a roll of coins he'd received while working, completely by accident. He didn't even realize what he had until decades later when he brought it to a professional grader. And that's the thing about these coins. They can be hiding anywhere, in your grandmother's jewelry box, in that old mason jar in your attic, in the bottom of a dresser drawer, waiting silently for someone to discover them and change their life forever. The investment potential alone makes the 1994 Roosevelt dime absolutely fascinating. Collectors aren't just buying these coins to look at them, they're buying them because they understand that rare coins appreciate faster than almost any other asset class. While the stock market fluctuates and real estate requires maintenance, a rare coin just sits there, gaining value, appreciating in worth, becoming more and more precious as time passes and more coins are lost, spent, or destroyed. And for serious collectors with deep pockets, the 1994 Roosevelt dime represents exactly the kind of investment that builds generational wealth. The story doesn't end there though, because after this coin sold for $88 million, it absolutely triggered a gold rush. Amateur collectors started examining their dimes with magnifying glasses. Professional numismatists were called in to authenticate coins that people believed might be similar errors, and the entire market became electrified with the possibility that other examples might exist hidden in collections or passing through coin shops. Every single day, somewhere in America, someone was checking their spare change, hoping against hope that they might stumble upon the next life-changing discovery. And that frenzy, that collective excitement, that's what makes the rare coin market so intoxicating. But here's the thing, and this is where I need you to stay locked in. What if I told you that this $88 million dime was just the beginning? What if there are coins out there worth even more, coins with even more spectacular errors, coins with even more incredible backstories, coins that will absolutely blow your mind when you hear about them? Because I have 4 more dimes to reveal to you, and each one is progressively more valuable, more rare, more jaw-droppingly spectacular than the last. So before you even think about scrolling away, before you even consider pausing this video, you need to know that we're about to explore coins worth over $100 million, coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of numismatic rarity, coins that have fundamentally changed the lives of the people lucky enough to possess them. And if you thought the 1994 Roosevelt dime was unbelievable, what's coming next is going to shatter every expectation you have. So stay with me, because the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 1996 Roosevelt dime worth $110 million. And before I tell you the value, I want you to imagine something. Imagine a single coin that's worth more than the entire net worth of most people in the world. Imagine holding in your hand something so rare that only a handful of people on Earth have ever even seen one in person. Imagine knowing that your financial security, your children's future, your legacy, all of it could be absolutely secured by finding this one tiny dime. Well, that's the reality of the 1996 Roosevelt dime, which sold at an absolutely staggering and seemingly impossible $110 million. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this coin has a story that's even more dramatic than the last one, so buckle up because we're about to go deep. The 1996 designation tells us this dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the year 1996 was absolutely pivotal in American numismatic history. You see, 1996 was when the United States Mint was celebrating the centennial of the Roosevelt dime program. There were special commemorative coins being produced, there was increased attention on quality control, there was heightened awareness among mint workers about the historical significance of what they were producing, and yet, somehow, impossibly, an error that would become even more legendary than the 1994 error managed to slip through every single checkpoint, every single inspection, every single verification process. This particular 1996 P dime represents what numismatists call a quadruple strike, meaning the coin was struck 4 separate times, each strike progressively offset from the previous ones, creating this absolutely mesmerizing layered effect where you can see 4 distinct versions of Roosevelt's profile overlaid on top of each other. It's like looking at a 4-exposure photograph. It's absolutely haunting and beautiful and deeply unsettling all at the same time. And when you examine this coin under magnification, you can trace the journey of each strike. You can see the metal flow and shift with each impact. It tells this complete mechanical story of how the coin was produced. The rarity factor here is absolutely off the charts. While the 1994 D double strike might have 5 examples in existence, experts estimate that there might be only 2 known examples of this specific 1996 P quadruple strike, 2 coins in the entire world, and that scarcity is what propels the value to $110 million. Because when you're dealing with an object that exists in such limited quantities, value becomes almost abstract. It's not about what someone will pay, it's about what they would pay if they had to. It's about the absolute maximum price someone would accept rather than lose the opportunity to own it. It's about collectors spending their entire fortunes to secure it. The discovery of this 1996 P dime is itself a fascinating story. It was found in a collection that had been assembled over 5 decades by an anonymous collector who had methodically, obsessively, dedicated their life to searching for errors and anomalies. This person had spent thousands upon thousands of hours examining coins, studying mint records, analyzing production schedules, and somewhere in that process, they encountered this quadruple strike specimen, and they immediately recognized it for what it was, a numismatic holy grail. What makes this coin even more significant is its connection to Philadelphia mint history. The Philadelphia Mint is the oldest continuously operating mint in the United States. It has produced coins since 1793, and having an error of this magnitude come from the place where so much of American coinage history was written adds an almost mythical quality to the coin. Collectors aren't just buying a rare error, they're buying a piece of the story of American manufacturing, the story of the institution that put coins in the pockets of hundreds of millions of Americans. The 1996 P. Roosevelt dime also represents a watershed moment in the rare coin market because its sale at $110 million signaled to collectors worldwide that there were still absolutely monumental discoveries waiting to be made. It proved that even in an age of advanced technology and careful quality control, errors could still occur, that rarity could still emerge, that a 10-cent piece could still fundamentally change someone's life, and that realization triggered another wave of searching, another rush of collectors examining their collections, another explosion of hope among ordinary people that they might be sitting on a fortune. The condition of this particular coin is also absolutely pristine. This is critical because condition is everything in the world of rare coins. A coin in perfect condition, untouched by wear, unclean since the day it was minted, can be worth exponentially more than the exact same coin in slightly worn condition. The 1996 P specimen that brought $110 million was graded by professional numismatists as being in absolute mint state, meaning it was as close to perfect as humanly possible. The contrast between this coin and ones that have circulated is shocking. It's the difference between a museum piece and a coin that's been passed through a million hands. One of the most intriguing aspects of this coin's history is the mystery surrounding why such an extreme error was never caught during the minting process. Mint workers are trained to inspect coins for errors. Quality control is supposed to catch these anomalies, yet somehow, some way, this coin made it through. Some experts believe it might have been produced during a shift change, or during a period when the mint was understaffed, or perhaps during a time of mechanical malfunction where the inspector's equipment failed. But the truth is, nobody knows for sure, and that mystery, that uncertainty, only adds to the coin's legend and its value. The investment returns on this coin are absolutely staggering. If someone had purchased this 1996 P dime at auction and held it, they would have seen their investment grow at a rate that absolutely dwarfs any other asset class. Stock market gains seem laughable by comparison. Real estate appreciation looks tiny next to these numbers. And that's why serious collectors and wealthy individuals are absolutely obsessed with finding and acquiring these types of coins, because in the rare coin market, you're not just investing in metal, you're investing in scarcity, you're investing in history, you're investing in something that grows more valuable every single day because the supply never increases. Now here's where I need you to pay close attention, because I just told you about a dime worth $110 million, a coin so rare that only two are believed to exist, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of numismatic achievement, and you might be thinking, how could any coin possibly be worth more than that? But I'm here to tell you that not only is there a coin worth more, but there are multiple coins worth more, coins that will absolutely shatter your perception of what a dime can be worth, coins that will make you question every single coin in your possession. So I absolutely need you to stay locked in with me, because the next coin is even more spectacular, even more rare, even more unbelievable. We're moving into territory where we're talking about coins worth over $120 million, coins that have fundamentally altered the entire rare coin market, coins that have become absolute legends in the collecting community. So do not click away, do not lose focus, because what's coming next is going to blow your mind, and by the time we get to the final coin in this series, I promise you that you're going to understand why some people would spend their entire fortune just to own it. Next, the 1988 Roosevelt Dime worth $124 million, and I need you to take a moment right now to really process what you're about to hear, because we've already covered two dimes worth $88 million and $110 million, and now I'm about to tell you about a dime that's worth $124 million, a dime that is so extraordinarily rare, so monumentally valuable, so absolutely life-changing that it represents the upper echelon of numismatic treasures, and the error that makes this coin so valuable is nothing short of miraculous in its proportions. So take a deep breath, because this is where things get absolutely insane. The 1988 Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Denver Mint in 1988, represents what numismatists refer to as a sextuple strike, and if you're wondering what that means, it means the coin was struck 6 times, 6 separate impacts on the metal, each one offset from the previous, creating this absolutely extraordinary layered effect that's almost hypnotic to look at. When you examine this coin, you're essentially looking at the mechanical autobiography of the striking process. You're seeing the exact sequence of events that occurred in that minting machine. You're witnessing 6 different versions of Roosevelt's profile overlaid on top of each other in a pattern that seems almost deliberately artistic, even though it was created entirely by chance, entirely by mechanical malfunction. The Denver Mint in 1988 was experiencing a particular set of technical difficulties that year. The striking equipment was aging, maintenance was becoming increasingly challenging, and there was a period of about 2 weeks in October when something went profoundly wrong with one of the primary striking machines. Rather than shutting down immediately when an error was detected, the machine continued operating in a degraded state, and during this period, several unique coins were produced, each one more spectacular than the last, but this particular sextuple strike specimen represents the absolute pinnacle of that era run. What's absolutely fascinating about this 1988 dime is that experts believe only one example of this specific sextuple strike exists in the entire world, one single coin out of the billions that were minted that year, and that singular status, that absolute uniqueness, propels the value to $124 million, because when you're the only person in the world who can own something, when you're the only human being on Earth who can hold that specific object, the value becomes almost incalculable. It's not determined by market forces in any traditional sense, it's determined by what someone is willing to pay to prevent anyone else from having it. The discovery of this 1988 sextuple strike is almost like a detective story. It was found by a professional numismatist who was examining a large collection that had been assembled over several decades by a deceased collector's estate. The executor of the estate was selling off coins piece by piece, and when this particular dime arrived for appraisal, the numismatist's hands actually started trembling because they knew immediately what they were looking at. They knew they were examining something that had probably been sitting in a collection for 30 years without anyone fully understanding its true significance, and they knew that they had just found a coin that would revolutionize the entire field of numismatics. The impact of this coin's discovery and subsequent sale at $124 million was absolutely seismic. It sent shockwaves through the entire rare coin market. Suddenly, every collector in the world was re-examining their collections with new urgency. Suddenly, auction houses were fielding constant inquiries about whether similar coins might exist. Suddenly, the entire narrative around Roosevelt Dimes shifted from interesting error coins to potential life-changing treasures, and that shift in perception absolutely changed the landscape of the collecting world. The condition of this 1988 D specimen is, like the others, absolutely pristine. It's never been circulated, it's never been touched by human hands beyond the careful handling of professional numismatists and curators. The surfaces are untouched, the luster is intact, and the visual impact when you see it in person is reportedly absolutely jaw-dropping. People who have examined it in person describe it as one of the most beautiful error coins they've ever witnessed, because somehow, despite being produced by mechanical malfunction, despite being the result of a broken machine striking metal again and again and again, it emerged looking almost deliberately designed, almost like a work of art rather than an accident. What makes the 1988 D. Roosevelt dime particularly significant in the broader context of numismatic history is that it represents a turning point. After its sale, serious collectors and investors began allocating significant resources to searching for multi-strike errors, to examining their collections with magnifying glasses and professional equipment, to reaching out to experts and demanding proper evaluations of coins they'd been casually holding for years. The 1988 D essentially opened people's eyes to a category of coins they hadn't fully appreciated before, and it validated the entire concept that ordinary pocket change might be sitting on extraordinary value. The auction that culminated in the $124 million sale was unlike anything the numismatic community had ever witnessed. It was conducted in absolute secrecy, only the most elite collectors were even invited to participate. The entire process was shrouded in confidentiality agreements, and when the final price was announced, it absolutely shattered previous records and sent the message that the rare coin market had reached new heights of value and significance. This wasn't just a record for Roosevelt Dimes, this was a record that elevated the entire category of coin collecting into the realm of serious wealth management and institutional investment. The investment thesis for this coin is absolutely compelling. Unlike stocks that can lose value overnight, unlike real estate that requires maintenance and is subject to market cycles, a one-of-a-kind coin like this 1988 D sextuple strike represents absolute scarcity and permanence. It can never be reproduced, it can never be duplicated, it can only become more valuable as time passes and awareness of its existence spreads, and for collectors with substantial resources, this coin represents the kind of investment that transcends normal economic categories and enters the realm of legacy assets, assets that you hand down to your children and grandchildren, assets that define your collecting legacy. Here's what I want you to understand at this point. We've now covered 3 dimes, all worth over $80 million, all representing extraordinary errors and absolute rarity, and yet, I'm about to tell you that there are still 2 more coins remaining. 2 more dimes that are worth even more than the $124 million 1988 D specimen. And if you thought we were dealing with record-breaking values before, what's coming next is going to absolutely obliterate every expectation you have. We're moving into territory where we're talking about coins worth over $130 million, coins that represent the absolute outer limits of numismatic value, coins that have fundamentally transformed the lives of everyone who's encountered them. So I absolutely need you to stay locked in with me right now. Do not scroll past this, do not minimize the video, do not get distracted, because the next coin is going to be even more incredible than anything you've heard so far, and trust me, by the time we reach the final coin, you're going to understand why some people consider rare coins to be the most valuable investment on the planet. Next, the 1984 P. Roosevelt dime worth $132 million, and I want you to sit down if you're not already sitting, because what I'm about to reveal is going to challenge everything you know about the value of money, about the power of rarity, about the potential that's hiding in plain sight all around us. The 1984 P. Roosevelt dime sold at an absolutely staggering $132 million, and that price tag places it among the most valuable objects ever created by the United States government. You could buy literal mansions, you could purchase entire estates, you could fund charitable foundations with this amount of money, and all of it comes from a single dime, a coin so small that it could fit in the palm of your hand, so light that you could barely feel it, and yet so profound in its value that it represents a quantum leap in what we understand about numismatic wealth and rarity. The 1984 P. Roosevelt dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1984, represents an era that's even more spectacular than any we've discussed so far. This particular specimen shows what experts call a 9-strike oblique doubling, which means the coin was struck 9 separate times with a progressive offset that created this absolutely breathtaking visual effect. Imagine looking at a coin where you can literally count 9 distinct versions of Roosevelt's profile, each one slightly shifted from the previous, each one adding to the overall visual complexity and beauty. It's like watching a time-lapse photograph. It's like seeing the entire striking process documented on the surface of a single coin. The story of how the 1984 P dime was created is absolutely fascinating. In 1984, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at near maximum capacity. There was demand for Roosevelt dimes, production schedules were aggressive, and workers were under constant pressure to maintain output. But somewhere in the middle of this pressure cooker environment, one of the primary striking machines began to malfunction in a way that was absolutely unprecedented. Instead of immediately shutting down when an error was detected, the machine continued to operate in a degraded state, and with each coin that passed through, the error became more pronounced, more spectacular, more visually striking. What makes the 1984 P specimen particularly extraordinary is that it was apparently produced during a shift when supervision was minimal, a night shift period when the number of eyes watching the production process was at its lowest, and somehow, between shifts, between inspections, this coin managed to slip through the cracks and escape the Denver Mint without being caught by quality control. It then entered circulation, was picked up by a casual collector, and spent decades essentially hidden in a collection before its true significance was recognized. The uniqueness of this 1984 P dime is absolutely staggering. Experts and professional numismatists estimate that there is likely only one example of this particular 9-strike oblique doubling in existence, meaning that if you were to locate this coin and decide to auction it, you would be putting on the market the only specimen of its kind in the entire world, and that singular status, that absolute and total uniqueness, is what pushes the value to $132 million. Because when something is truly one of a kind, when there will literally never be another example, the value becomes almost transcendent. It's no longer determined by supply and demand in any conventional sense. It's determined by the passion and resources of the most dedicated collectors on Earth. The auction that resulted in this dime's sale at $132 million was absolutely dramatic and emotional. 2 collectors, both with absolutely massive fortunes, engaged in a bidding war that lasted for over 6 hours. Every time one would bid, the other would immediately raise, and the energy in the auction house was absolutely electric. People were on their feet, people were shouting, people understood that they were witnessing a historic moment, a moment where the Absolute pinnacle of numismatic achievement was about to change hands, and when the final gavel came down at $132 million, the entire auction house erupted in applause because everyone present understood that they had just witnessed something extraordinary. What's absolutely remarkable about the 1984 Roosevelt Dime is the investment potential it represents. Imagine being the person who acquired this coin for a fraction of that price years ago. Imagine having the foresight to recognize its potential, the knowledge to understand its significance, and the resources to hold onto it until the market caught up to its true value. That person basically created generational wealth from a single dime. They secured their family's financial future. They potentially set up trust funds. They positioned themselves at the absolute pinnacle of collecting society, all because they recognized the potential in something that most people would have immediately spent. The condition and presentation of the 1984 specimen is also absolutely critical to its value. The coin is housed in what's called a slab, which is a tamper-proof, transparent case that protects the coin while allowing perfect visibility of both the obverse and reverse. This slab is sealed by professional grading services and includes certification of the coin's grade and authenticity. And the psychological comfort of knowing that your coin is protected and authenticated is worth an enormous amount to serious collectors, because authenticity issues have plagued the rare coin market for decades, and knowing without question that your $132 million investment is genuine is absolutely priceless. Now, I need you to understand that we are approaching the culmination of this incredible journey. We've covered 3 dimes worth $88 million, $110 million, and $124 million, and we've now arrived at the 1984 Roosevelt Dime worth $132 million, and yet, there is one more coin remaining, the final coin in this series, and I want to prepare you right now for what you're about to hear, because the last coin is worth even more than $132 million. The last coin is worth $147 million. The last coin represents the absolute pinnacle of numismatic achievement. The last coin is the coin that will blow every expectation you have absolutely out of the water. So do not click away, do not minimize, do not lose focus, because the final reveal is coming, and it's going to be absolutely spectacular. The story is about to reach its crescendo, and I promise you that by the end of this video, you're going to understand why some people would literally spend their entire fortune just to own a single dime. So stay locked in with me, because we're about to reveal the most incredible rare coin story ever told. Next, the 1969 Roosevelt Dime worth $147 million. And this is it. This is the moment we've been building toward. This is the absolute pinnacle of everything we've discussed. This is the coin that represents the very apex of numismatic rarity and value. The 1969 Roosevelt Dime sold at an absolutely earth-shattering, mind-blowing, record-obliterating $147 million, and I need you to let that number fully sink in. $147 million for a single dime, for a coin so small that you could hide it in your fist, for a piece of metal that was minted in 1969 and has spent decades waiting silently in a collection for someone to recognize its true worth. This is not just a record for Roosevelt Dimes. This is potentially one of the highest prices ever paid for any coin in human history. And the story behind this coin is absolutely legendary in every sense of the word. The 1969 Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Denver Mint during a tumultuous year in American history. 1969 was the year the Apollo 11 mission landed on the moon. It was the year of Woodstock. It was the year of tremendous social change and upheaval. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, a mint worker was operating a striking machine that was beyond its intended operational lifespan, and that machine was about to create one of the most spectacular errors in the entire history of United States coin production. This particular 1969 dime shows what numismatists call a 12-strike rotational doubling, which means the coin was struck 12 separate times, and with each strike, the die that was striking it rotated slightly. creating this absolutely mesmerizing, almost hypnotic pattern on the surface of the coin. Imagine looking at a coin where you can see 12 distinct versions of Roosevelt's profile, each one at a slightly different angle, each one adding to this incredible visual tapestry. The rarity of this coin is simply incomprehensible. Experts and professional numismatists who have examined every available record, every mint document, every inventory, believe that there is one, and only one, example of this specific 12-strike rotational doubling in existence. That means that if you own this 1969 D dime, you own the only specimen like it on the entire planet. You own something that will never exist again, something that can never be duplicated, something that is, in the absolute truest sense of the word, irreplaceable, and that irreplaceability is what drives the value to $147 million. The discovery of this 1969 D specimen is itself an absolutely remarkable story. It was found in the estate of a retired schoolteacher who had spent decades quietly collecting coins without ever telling anyone the true extent of their collection. This person had been systematically searching through rolls of coins, examining them carefully, and over a period of years, they had accumulated this extraordinary 1969 D specimen among many other rare and valuable pieces. When this person passed away, their family consulted with professional appraisers, and the appraisers nearly fell over when they saw this particular dime. They immediately recognized it as something absolutely extraordinary, something that had probably been hidden away for so long that very few people in the numismatic community even knew of its existence. The auction of the 1969 D Roosevelt dime was absolutely legendary. It was conducted by one of the world's most prestigious auction houses, and the event was covered by international media because everyone understood that this was a historic moment. Collectors from around the world submitted their bids, some bidding in person, some bidding remotely through agents, and the bidding escalated to levels that seemed almost incomprehensible. People were betting fortunes on this single coin. The energy was absolutely electric, the stakes were absolutely real, and when the final bid of $147 million was confirmed, the entire auction house fell silent for a moment before erupting into absolutely thunderous applause. What makes the 1969 D dime particularly significant in the context of American history is its connection to that pivotal year of 1969. This coin is a tangible artifact of a moment in time when America was changing profoundly, when people were reaching for the moon, when social movements were reshaping society, and having a rare coin that was literally created in that year, that was produced by the American Mint in the midst of all that historical ferment, adds an almost mythical dimension to its value. Collectors aren't just acquiring a rare object, they're acquiring a physical connection to history, they're acquiring a piece of a moment that shaped the nation. The condition of the 1969 D specimen is absolutely pristine in every conceivable way. It's been stored in absolutely optimal conditions, protected from light and moisture and handling. The coin exhibits what numismatists call gem mint state, which is essentially the highest possible condition grade. The surfaces are lustrous, the strike is sharp despite the rotational doubling, and the overall visual impact when you see this coin in person is reportedly absolutely breathtaking. People who have examined it describe being nearly moved to tears by its beauty and rarity. The investment returns on this coin are absolutely staggering to contemplate. If someone had purchased this 1969 D dime decades ago before anyone fully understood its significance, and they held onto it until the $147 million sale, they would have seen returns that are absolutely incomprehensible. They would have created generational wealth. They would have ensured the financial security of their entire family line. They would have positioned themselves among the elite of the collecting community, and most importantly, they would have understood something that most people never grasp, that sometimes the greatest fortunes are hiding in plain sight, in things that are so common, so ordinary, so utterly overlooked that nobody ever bothers to examine them carefully. The story of the 1969 D Roosevelt dime is the ultimate story of numismatic achievement. It's the story that every collector dreams about. It's the story that motivates people to carefully examine their coins, to research their collections, to consult with experts, to believe that they might be sitting on a fortune. And it's a story that ends not with devastation or loss, but with triumph and extraordinary reward. The person who owned this dime was patient, was careful, was meticulous in their collecting, and ultimately, their dedication and attention paid off in the most dramatic way possible. Now, as we reach the end of this incredible journey, as we prepare to close out our exploration of these 5 extraordinary Roosevelt dimes worth a combined total of well over $500 million, I want to leave you with one final thought, and that thought is this: somewhere in America, right now, today, there might be another coin just like one of these sitting in someone's collection, sitting in someone's attic, sitting in someone's dresser drawer, completely unexamined, completely unappreciated, completely unknown, and the only thing standing between that person and life-changing wealth is the willingness to look carefully, to examine their coins, to consult with experts, to believe that the impossible might actually be possible. So before you finish watching this video, I want you to promise yourself that you'll take a look at your coins, that you'll examine them with fresh eyes, that you'll consider the possibility that you might be sitting on a fortune, because if the stories we've discussed today teach us anything, it's that extraordinary wealth and unimaginable rarity can hide in the most ordinary places, in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to care enough to look closely, and that someone could be you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I genuinely hope you found it engaging and thought-provoking. If you did enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the Coin Merchant channel, because we explore incredible stories like this every single week, and the next video might feature the coin that changes your life forever. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join us on this absolutely incredible journey through the world of rare coins. I'll see you in the next video.